Today I'm going to teach you how to make a split letter monogram, much like this one in Cricut Design Space. So I'm just going to move this one over here because that's what we're designing. We don't need to see it. Okay, so first off, I'm putting this in a frame, and my frame is going to be 11 inches wide by 14 inches in height. So what I'm going to do is go to Shapes and insert a square. And I am going to click on this little padlock here so that I can resize it and stretch it to make it a rectangle. If I go up to size, I can just type in the width and height that I need. So I want it 11 by 14. And I need to zoom out. Okay, so that's going to help me so that when I'm designing this, you can see I can kind of size things and see my spacing. So this is what it's going to look like when it's all done. And I know that looks really nice because I kind of centered it in the template of the frame. Okay, let's get rid of that guy. Okay, so this is kind of what we're using for scale of everything. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is a letter that we're going to split. So we're going to go to the text, and I'm going to type in a capital T. And what I'm going to do is go here to the font, and I used a font called Plantin School Book. That is a Cricut font. You can use any font you'd like. Some people like scrolly fonts for this. Some people want really basic blocky looking fonts. So this font worked good for me. Now when I first sized this up, you can see it was like it's kind of a perfect square, and I knew I wanted it about 8 inches wide so that it filled most of the width, but not all of it. But then it wasn't long enough. So what I decided to do was just unlock that so that I could go 8 by 10. And it stretched it out a little bit. Now because this is a letter that has kind of a blocky shape to it, it worked fine. Your letter that you're using, you might have to play with this a little bit and maybe pick a different font, but for this one it works. I just wanted to show you that's how you would stretch it. Now I'm going to lock this back because I don't want to accidentally bump that and mess up my height and width. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is over here. Let's look at the layers panel. You can see that this layer, or this font, has 2 layers in it. It's got this yellow one and this black one. The black layer is behind the yellow one. And right now this eyeball is turned off. That means that that layer is hidden. So if I turn it on, it's going to look like this. That might look really nice for a different project, but for this project we only want 1 layer. So what I'm going to do is click on this black layer and delete it. Just get rid of it because we're not using it. Okay, but now I want to change this layer to be black. Now obviously the Cricut's going to cut whatever color vinyl you put on the Cricut cutting mat, but I like to design things in the colors I'm going to use. It just helps me to visually see what's going on and get a better idea for the finished project. Okay, so now let's create the blocks that are going to make the split or the opening in this T. So first I'm going to click on Shapes, and I'm going to insert another square. I'm going to unlock this because I want to make it a long skinny rectangle. See, this is going to basically go in here. So because I made this 8 inches wide, I'm going to make this 8 inches wide. And for the height of it, I want it to be the height that I'm going to split this. I'm going to go 2.5. Again, depending on the size of your design, you might alter these, but these are the numbers I'm going with. Okay? So now we want to click on this one and right click to go duplicate. The other way to duplicate is to go up here in the upper right corner. Duplicate basically does a copy and a paste all in one move. Okay, so now I have 2 of these squares. Unlock this, and we're going to make this one 0.25. So now it's a tiny skinny little guy. Okay, we're going to make this tiny skinny little one black, because this is going to be the crossbar on the split monogram. Okay, so now I have that all set up, and I'm going to duplicate that one because I need one for the top and one for the bottom. All right, select all 3 of these rectangles by making a big window around them. We're going to go align and align to the left, and watch what happens on the left hand side. Boom. See how they're all lined up on the left? Beautiful. Now we're going to just select the top 2 and tell it to align to the top, and boom, now this horizontal is lined up with this big fat rectangle. Now, this is important. The next step we want to do is group these together. When we group, that makes both of these pieces work as one instead of working as 2 separate pieces. So group those together. Okay, so now if I select all of this, because these 2 are grouped together, they're going to work as one. And now I can go align to the bottom, and that secondary, the one on the bottom went to the behind. So I'm going to click on it here. When I click on the layers panel here, see how it highlights the area where that skinnier rectangle is? But we can't see it because it's behind the big fat one. So now I'm going to go arrange, and send it to the front. Okay, so that's what you should end up with. Skinny line stacked on top of fat line, skinny line stacked on top of fat line. This one aligned to the top, and that one's aligned to the bottom. So now we know everything's perfectly arranged, aligned to the left, top and bottom. Again, select everything and group this. Oops, sorry, I selected the T also. I just want to select everything in the rectangle family here and group this. Okay, so now that we've grouped that, I can click on that and see how the whole grouping moves together. This is going to be magical now. Watch this. Now select the whole grouping of rectangles along with the T and go align, center. Boom! It perfectly centered that grouping of rectangles over your T. Perfect. You didn't have to measure anything. You don't have to think about anything. It's just there. Okay, so we grouped all those things together so they would move together to make this whole snapping to the center work nice. Now we have to ungroup them. So we're going to click on all of those and hit ungroup. So now they're individual lines again. Oh, this one is still grouped, so let's ungroup again. They're individual lines again. We need that because we need to be able to only pick 2 of these so we can slice. This is super, super important. Slice in Cricut Design Space only works when you have 2 things selected. The item you are slicing and what you're slicing from it. If you have just one item selected, like for example, if I just click on this T, see how slice doesn't turn on? It's like, well, you only have one thing picked. Are you slicing that or are you slicing from that? Now, if I clicked and selected all of this, the whole thing, now I have, let's look at our layers panel. 1, 2, 3, 4 things selected. I have the T, the fat rectangle, and the 2 skinny ones. So now it's confused. They're like, well, which things am I slicing from what? So 2 things. Remember that. 2 things. So this is why I like to select from the layers panel when slicing. Because if I click over here, okay, at that time I happen to click the exact right thing. But sometimes when you have overlapping things, you might not click on the thing you really want. So I can see in this preview, that's the fatter rectangle. So I'm going to click there. This is the part you won't be able to see on video, but I am now holding down my shift key on my keyboard. This allows me to pick a second thing to that same selection. I can tell there are 2 things selected because see how this gray background part of the layer is darker than this gray part? So I have two that are selected, so those two are darker. And magically, with two things selected, slice turned on. It's activated. So click that slice button. And Cricut will do its thing and think a little bit, and it's sliced. And you're like, Sean, I don't see any difference really. Well, it's because all the slices are still stacked on top of each other. So right here it says slice result. That's one of the slices, so we're going to delete that. No, delete that. There we go. Here's another one that says slice result. Let's delete that. Here's another one that says slice result. Let's delete that. Okay, the only slice result we want to keep is the big T. So once I deleted all those pieces, see how we're left with that open gap for our sliced monogram or split monogram. So now what I want to do, I want to keep this horizontal bars connected to the T. So I'm going to select everything and click weld. Weld joins, glues, fuses, things that are touching to each other. So now instead of being two separate lines and a T, it's all fused and connected together. That's how easy it is to make a split letter monogram. All right, last part is to put the name in here. So I'm going to go text and type in Thurston because I was doing this for some hockey friends of ours. And again, this is a multi-layered font. So we're going to turn on that background layer and then delete it because we don't need it. And we're going to make this one black so that matches the rest of everything. Now, because this was 8 inches wide, I'm going to make this 8 inches wide so that it all matches up. Now, when I moved this in here, I was like, yeah, that's kind of tiny. I could make it taller, right? So I'm going to unlock this and leave it 8 inches wide, but then I'm going to do 1.75. That works for this font because of the blocky nature of it. And for this name, like if you have a really long name or a really short name, you know, it might not fit right. So play around with it. So one last thing I want to do, I'm going to just throw this a little off center so you can see it happen. I want to make sure the name Thurston is centered perfectly in the split layer monogram. So I'm going to select everything and go align, center. Boom, it's centered perfectly. Now, I want to show you something. I'm going to turn off that square and I'm going to click Make It. When I click Make It, the Cricut separated those two, the T and the Thurston. Why did it do that? Well, because the Cricut is thinking that this is one shape and this is one shape, so it didn't know I want them cut all together. So let's cancel. This is the final piece to making this all work. Select everything and then click Attach. Attach holds the placement and position of things. So now it will look exactly like it does right here on the screen. Watch when we click Make It. There it is, perfectly. I can even move it. Maybe I want to center it in my cut of vinyl just for ease of cutting. But that's it. We've now created a split letter monogram. You learned how to use align, group, attach, slice, and you learned a little bit about multi-layer font. So if this video helped you at all, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and let me know how excited you are to start making split letter monograms. And then make sure to subscribe to my channel so you get updates for all of my newest videos. Thanks!